trust people. You give them second chances, and they live up to your expectations. You always find another way.
Not this time. When I thought you were dead, I had to do a lot of growing up.
You did fine.
For a while. But then I let my fame go to my head. I've been as big a jerk these past few months as I ever was. Aren't you gonna argue with me?
Not when you're right. I just wanted to make sure you'd really thought about this.
I have, Grandpa. But this isn't kid stuff anymore.
Let's talk about Ben 10. Let's talk about what I loved about it, what I hated about it, how I grew to be associated with the franchise, and let's talk about why I'm cutting all ties to it. As the original series ended and Alien Force came into production, there was an active choice to mature and evolve the series narratively, and in most aspects, they did. By bringing in a new set of writers, some of which from the DCAU like Dwayne McDuffie, the show basically set itself up for success. By the end of Alien Force's second season, it felt like the beginning of a huge expansion of the franchise into something that could be taken seriously by the geek fandom on the same level of merit as DC and Marvel, and even other action cartoons for kids that are just considered to be good media. Some of it was network interference, some of it was due to staff changes, but due to reasons I really don't feel like getting into, the franchise kinda just went off the rails. Alien Force Season 3 had quite a few flaws that dragged it down a peg for me. I did not like Ultimate Alien upon further inspection, and Omniverse was a fun series that albeit got a little too young sometimes for my liking. And the reboot is just not for me. I don't consider any of the later shows to be a disgrace or an insult to the franchise as some people adamantly claim, but it's kinda just got whatever at that point. I just lost interest. Or rather, that's probably what I would say if I had watched the entire franchise now, instead of back then. I mean, plot contrivances, character assassination, and whatnot, just got me like, I could just be consuming better content. But something, despite all those flaws, I was still hooked on the franchise for the longest time. Even dating back to 2021, I was still hooked on it in a way that it's kind of been unprecedented. So what was the sudden change that diluted my attitude toward Ben 10? Well, it's not as sudden as you might think. It's a thing I've been thinking about for a long time, but I've kept to myself, but I think I'm ready to reveal it. In May of 2020, I published Ben 10 Art Design Part 1, Benception I think it was called, which quickly became my most popular video. For obvious reasons. And that led me to believe that Ben 10 was a way to gain attraction to my webcomic The Changers. My mindset was essentially, if you like Ben 10, you might find interest in this series I'm working on. I quickly lost sight of that idea. I mean, at that point, I was already mismanaging The Changers, and I still kinda am, and yes, we're going to talk about that. In addition to the Ben 10 content that I was posting abundantly on Twitter and YouTube, that's kind of essentially what I became known for. And I was realizing it. But before any of that realization could turn into action, I was noticed by certain channels like Ink Tank and Xanderflix, who are primarily focused on Ben 10 at the time, and maybe still are depending on when you're watching this, I don't know. The point is, I was hired by those channels to do music for their various projects, namely 5YL and Ben One Last Time, which were opportunities that I couldn't even imagine myself in prior. I mean, to have channels of such magnitude and notoriety in the Ben 10 community look for me for work was kind of flattering, and I ended up developing a really good level of partnership with them, which I will probably continue to keep. But the attention and the work from those channels essentially just propelled me, skyrocketed me in the direction of Ben 10. I felt like I was being known as a Ben 10 channel, a Ben 10 guy, a Ben 10 artist, while The Changers was essentially rotting on the sidelines, and I have no person to blame for that except for me. I felt this way for a long time, going on a year, but I didn't really bother to say anything. I mean, I've expressed it here and there on Twitter, but that felt more like whining. that felt more like asking for pity. And I just woke up and I decided we're not going to do that anymore. We're not just going to ask people to feel for us. We're going to make an active change. See, I've always grown up as a very prideful person with a lot to prove. I mean, I've been bullied in the past. My self-confidence has went up and down throughout the years, but at my heart, I feel like I have a lot to prove, and I'm a perfectionist, and I have a lot of pride. And that kind of halts me from admitting my faults. I don't want anyone else to see me as a person other than flawless. Which sounds a little egotistical, and it is, right? But that's not really the person I am inside. I mainly kind of just act that way on the internet because I'm not comfortable with being vulnerable, but I'm gonna do it today. I'm very proud of the achievements and the work that I've gotten in the Ben 10 community, and a certain level of notoriety that I've gotten. I appreciate it, but from this day forward, from the time I upload this video, I will be disavowing myself from the community. If there is one single franchise that has blocked my vision of the Changers from what I want it to be in the face of my followers, it's Ben 10. I hate to say it. I've grown up with it. I played the games. I went on the websites. I checked the boards. I went on Dailymotion to look for new episode uploads. Like I said in that first Ben 10 art design video, I was a freak for the franchise. I wanted Kevin's car. You know this. I'm a geek. But for the sake of my growth and for the sake of myself, I'm going to have to do it. I will still be working on 5YL and the Ben 10 One Last Time OST if the Ink Tank and Xander Flicks hit me up for it. But I will probably not be credited voluntarily, and I will definitely not be joining any future Ben 10 projects until my identity becomes known for the Changers and for my art and for my passion for making animations and comics and music. I want to be known as Noximation, not Noximation who works for the Ink Tank, or Noximation who works for Ben One Last Time, or Noximation who makes Ben 10 art on Twitter, or Noximation who rants about the Ultimate Kevin arc on Discord. You know. If you know, you know. I mean, but in all seriousness, I'll always love Ben 10 in some capacity. The series itself has jaded me over time through its narrative choices, but at its core, it's a great franchise with a lot of heart, and I always love it for what it is. But that being said, I am not a Ben 10 content creator. It's ultimately my mistake for marketing myself as one, whether advertent or not. And I'm here to revoke that today. Have a good one. It was great talking to you. And it took me a while to consider this, but I had to do it. Love you.